everybody. Welcome to the Doctorate of Audiology virtual information session. My name is Tom Kresh. I'm our Director of Graduate Admissions here, and I will be our host for tonight. We have a tremendous event planned. It'll be a great opportunity for you to learn more about your prospective student experience in our AUD program. This is a big decision. This is probably among the biggest decisions you're going to make in your life, and we want to make sure that we're giving you enough information that you can make an informed decision. And so that's why tonight I think is going to be a good investment of your time. But before we go any further, Dr. Zaleski, would you mind introducing yourself to the group?
Sure. Welcome, everybody. Thank you for taking time out of your busy schedule for being with us tonight. As Tom says, I'm Dr. Tom Zaleski. A lot of people call me Dr. Z. So if you come here, you'll hear Dr. Z. That is me. I've been here at Bloomsburg 27 years. I've taught undergraduate as well as the graduate program and the AUD program. I am currently the director of the graduate program, so I would also be your advisor. So if you have any questions, don't hesitate to ask. No question is a bad question. The only question that is a bad question is one that is not asked. So that being said, my area of expertise are auditory processing and tinnitus, but I like to say I'm a jack of all, master of none, because I do a little bit of everything throughout my career. So welcome, everybody. Hopefully you find this presentation beneficial and help you to make an informed decision where you want to spend your next 4 years. So welcome.
And Dr. Zaleski, if I'm not mistaken, you're also a Bloom graduate as well, a product
Yes,
of the
I am.
program.
Yep. I actually graduated from the undergraduate program and the mass back way when before there was a doctoral. I graduated with my master's and then went on to NYU to get my PhD. So yes, I am. It's near and dear to my heart. So
You came full circle.
full circle is right. Is right.
Well, great. Well, thank you so much, Dr. Zaleski. We have a great presentation planned. This event is being recorded. So again, whether you're watching live or you're watching the recording, thank you so much for your time. We really do appreciate it. But we can go ahead and kick off the presentation here. And let me just share my screen. First question is, how do you become an audiologist? I don't know if you're watching this, you probably have a good sense, but just to clean up any questions that are out there, what's the path? What's the destination like?
Well, a lot of people ask that question. There's multiple ways in. You can come through the traditional pathway with an undergraduate degree in communication sciences and disorders. Some places call it audiology and speech pathology. Some people call it hearing science. So it depends on your program. In addition, our governing body indicates that it's not needed to have a ComDis background. So we know that strong applicants have come from the sciences as well as psychology because audiology is really based in the sciences. So I always say, if you come here, you'll hear me say, and at times students roll their eyes when they hear me say it. If you come here, if you know anatomy and physiology, audiology is really easy because everything that we do is based on anatomy and physiology. So if you understand the anatomy and physiology, it will come real easy. That's why the sciences are really good backgrounds, as well as psychology. We've had people from all backgrounds. We've had educators come in. We've had deaf and hard of hearing educators. So we had interpreters come through. So a little bit of everything. So once you basically the basic your basic science, your physical science, your human science, your social sciences, your math requirements, as well as a oral and or written communication, how you do well, you're eligible for our program. Then you have to complete the Doctor of Audiology. That is now the entry level into the field. And then to practice, you have to earn a state license. To obtain your state license, you have to pass the praxis, which is the national exam. And then there are some states that do require, and some employers that do require you to have certification, but that is dependent. One of the things I do know, and I always say, I don't know why I know this, but I know it. Kansas is one of those states where if you want to get your state license, you got to have your certificate of clinical competence from audiology. So, but there are some other states and there are some employers. If you want to work in a school, you will need a state license. There are some big hospitals that require it. So it really depends on where you're going to work. Any questions on that?
No, and Dr. Zaleski, that's a great point. I know we'll talk about this as we get into the application section, but again, your undergrad degree does not always need to be in communication sciences and disorders or audiology and speech language pathology. It's really it's kind of like going to med school almost to a certain degree where you could be biology, you could be biochem, you could be pre-med, you could be exercise. There's a number of different pathways there. And that's great. So you'll get a lot of great perspective in your classes because you'll have students coming from a number of different backgrounds. Now, obviously, when you go into a doctoral program, you're making a 4-year commitment. What does the return on the investment look like for the commitment to a doctorate degree?
As you can see here, depending on if you work part-time, full-time, if you work part-time, medians, a little over 61,000. If you work full-time, it's a little over 91. The PA median is 88. One of the things I always told my children when they were growing up that the goal is, and your parents may have said the same thing to you, the goal is when you go to college and after you finish your education, that you pay your own bills. You pay your own cell bill, you pay your own insurances, your car payments, all those things. If you can't pay your bills, it's called a hobby. Obviously you will be able to pay your bills. Remember, this is the median, so it's the middle. There's a little bit lower when you first start out, and as you go through your career, people who've been working the longest tend to make the most. Sometimes it depends on where you work. One of the things we do know, people in private practice tend to make the most money because they have more flexibility. You also can work more hours, and there's other demands with that, but it depends on what you want to do, how you want to do the way you want to do that. So yes, you will be able to pay your bills and everything else that goes along with it.
No, that is great dad wisdom, Dr. Zaleski. I have a feeling I'll be repeating that to my children here at some point. And one of the things that we're really proud of too is the program history and the program reputation. And I know the reality is this may not mean much to you right now, but it definitely will when you're applying for intern or clinicals and jobs because people know the reputation of our program. Can you walk us through why that matters?
Sure. Then the great thing is, as the slide says, we've been around for like 60 years. So it's not like we're doing this for the first time. We're tried and true. And the nice thing about it, a lot of the people, especially all over the place, because we've graduated so many students. Matter of fact, I will tell you, gosh, probably now about 3 weeks ago, I was talking to a student who came to visit our program. And the student was down toward the Philly area. And so she has an interest in audiology and was talking to some people. And she's like, geez, when I went to different places, everyone knew about Bloomsburg. Everyone knew Bloomsburg program and said it's a good program. That's where you want to go. She goes, matter of fact, I think everyone I talked to graduated from Bloomsburg. And that's the advantage. People know our program, they know our students. One of the things that is unique about our program, you start clinical experience from the first semester. So what happens is you get that solid foundation compared to other programs where you don't have that background. And so that's we hear time and time again when students or when I talk to site supervisors or former graduates or other people I know that have supervised our students. A lot of times they'll say, "We love your students. Your students have preference. We will not take a student for any place else because they're so well prepared." And they do such a good job, and that's really important also. So it's key that you have that, and I'll give another little tidbit. Gosh, this is maybe about 10 years ago. Faculty member at one time was in Australia visiting on this a trip vacation in break, and so she was in Australia and wanted to go into the hospital and see some things. And actually, she was SLP, but she went into the hospital and they knew about Bloomsburg's programs in Australia. So again, we're well known. People know us. We're a good program. We're a strong program. So in what we've done is tried and true. So it's not like it's something new that's coming up.
Yeah, I think that definitely matters. In just a very brief description, can you just walk us through kind of what's the mission statement for the program?
Sure. Overall, our goal is to prepare students because we are a clinical field. We know most of our students will be working clinically. So the overall goal is to prepare students to give them the firm foundation to take the theory and skills and knowledge they have and be able to move and apply it in their clinical setting. And that's the basic overview of the program to train well-rounded quality clinicians to work across the broad spectrum of the field of audiology.
Great. Thank you. And then our achievement data, I think Dr. Zaleski and I are going to say this is a great program, right? I think that's predictable, but I think the numbers really speak for themselves.
Correct. And that's really key. We have 100% graduation rates. All of our students are employed, and many of them are employed prior to actually finishing the program. When students are out on their fourth year experience, a lot of places will take fourth year students as an extended probationary experience. And depending on how things go, a lot of times, a lot of those students are hired at those facilities but sometimes they're not. And the reason why is some places they don't have positions. I've had students at some places say the facility has told them, if they had a position, they would hire the person. And so that speaks for itself. And then the praxis is the national exam that students have to take. So if you don't pass the praxis, you can't get licensed or certified. So we're up near 93%. So that's a strong pass rate. So not only will you finish the program, but you will obtain the knowledge and skills to pass the exam to get licensed and certified. So all those things are positive.
And then and anything that may not be covered later on, basically, what are some of the reasons why you feel like our program would be a great fit?
As I said, probably the biggest thing is that I often hear from students is when they come here, they're looking for, they know it's a hands-on field and they want that hands-on experience. A lot of there are programs out there where students do not start their clinical experiences until second, third, and some not even the fourth year. So what you have to keep in mind is about that is that students geez, I just lost my train of thoughts on that, so getting experience from the hands-on. So if you don't get that, one of the things I often tell the students is when we are I teach a diagnostic one course and a half for the past several years. I'll ask them beginning of the semester, hey, have you done an evaluation? And they'll be like, yes. I said, how long did it take you? Oh, about almost an hour. Okay. And then by the end of usually the end of the semester, we're asking me again. So when's the last time anyone do an evaluation? You've all done an evaluation? You're like, yep. I said, how long has it taken you? And they said, well, I don't know if I've really improved. Now it's taking me about a half hour. And I said, so in 15 weeks, you've gone from 55 to 60 minutes down to 30 minutes. I said, you just cut that in half. And that's the advantage. So if you've never had that, when you go out there, you're going to have to start from, and it's going to take you an hour. And some places don't have the time to do that. The other aspect is when you're doing, we also have electronic medical records. So many facilities are going that route with electronic medical records. We do have our on-campus clinic. So we are a full functioning clinic to provide basic and as well as advanced services in audiology. From basic testing to advanced testing, such as vestibular testing and ABR testing, to interventions, to fitting devices, to working with cochlear implants and BAHAs and tinnitus intervention. So a little bit of everything you'll get exposed to. Along with that, one of the things that's good or bad depending on where you're at. The audiology has a lot of toys. And the equipment is expensive. That's one of the negative things about the program because we have a lot of equipment. It is expensive. That's what makes it expensive. That's why there's not that many programs in the entire country. There's about 74, 75 programs in the entire country. So that makes not a ton out there. So you have all of those aspects. The other aspect is we do have a introduction to intraoperative neurophysiological monitoring course. Our first year students, everyone takes the intro to intraoperative neurophysiological monitoring. So to give them background and experiences, that falls under the scope of practice of audiology. So we cover a wide range of areas within our program. One of the things I've recently seen that some publications that came out recently is one, there's a huge need for early intervention audiologists as more and more pediatrics are being diagnosed earlier and earlier and earlier. Also, as the population is getting older, older people have issues. They have strokes, they have hearing loss, cognitive decline, balance issues, and there's huge needs for audiologists to address those, as well as I talked about earlier, the balance or the medical aspects of it. They also talked about audiology going more to a medical model as well as hearing science. So having that hearing science, and in our program, we do have a child oral rehabilitation habilitation course. We have a geriatric course. We have a medical audiology. We have a pharmacology course. We have neuroanatomy. We have neurophysiology courses. We have the IONM course. We have hearing science course. So we have those things. Our program was well developed and well laid out to offer those courses. We had the vision to see what's out there and shoot for the future, so we can meet all the needs that are out there.
And that gets us from a high level program overview for students, this may be their first experience kind of, looking at our program. Can you walk us through the different years again, 10,000 feet?
Sure. Overall, the first 2 years are spent on campus. You're taking 3 classes, and you have one course, which is a clinic course where you're getting a hands-on experience. in there, and there's also a academic portion tied to that, so students can get the experience and they can address weaknesses as well as the things that the clinical supervisors can see what's going on. In addition, so that's the first 2 years. Third year, we start transitioning our students to expanding their clinical knowledge because we are a small facility. You can't see everything at our campus. We recognize that. And so we transition you to getting to broaden your experiences and getting more experience on different equipment with different patients and also different supervisors. So that third year, you're taking 3 academic courses and off campus first Monday and Tuesday, and then you're off campus Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, getting part-time experience, usually within about a 2-hour radius of Bloomsburg. Again, we are rural, so it's not like we're in a metropolitan area and within a 5-mile radius there's 20 or 30 facilities. That's one of the negatives of our program, is that we are rural, so people have to travel sometime, but we still get quality experience. And then the fourth year is a full-time off-campus experience where students can be placed at anywhere within the US as long as we can get a contract and affiliation agreement with them. We've placed students in Washington States, California, Texas, Minnesota, Florida, Georgia, West Virginia, Maryland, New York, New Jersey, Ohio, Vermont, New Hampshire, New Mexico, uh,
All over.
a lot.
All over.
Yep.
And then more granularly, with the first year of coursework.
Okay, so the way it works is we've developed a program where you get your foundational courses the first year. So if you can look and see with the first semester, the fall semester, there's a diagnostic one, which is your basic bread and butter, air, bone, and speech testing. Then you get some theoretical information about how hearing aid works, and then there's the introduction to ILM course, and then your clinical course. And you can see when you look at all these, each one of those has the clinic aspect. Okay. So that's the important part. Then in the spring, you'll do a hearing science. That's basically the foundation of audiology, hearing science, how sounds work and those types of things. Then diagnostic 2, we go into basic middle ear testing and acoustic reflexes. Then you'll get a balance course, vestibular testing and knowing the anatomy. Then the summer you do a research course. The masking course is again a basic skill of audiology, where if the sound gets loud enough, it can transfer to the non-test ear. And unlike vision, where I'm sure everyone has had their eyes tested, where you do the eye chart and you say, okay, now cover up your right eye, cover up your left eye to see how each ear works independent. Well, if you're testing hearing, you can't say, oh, cover up my left ear, cover my right ear, because the sound's not coming from outside. It's coming from the sound stimulating the one ear, stimulating the skull, getting the other side. So you have to learn how to, for lack of a better term, give a artificial hearing loss in that ear so it's not contributing to it. So that's what the purpose of that course is. Then there's the auditory problems in children, learning about genetics as well as how to test kids and the hearing developments of children. So that's your first year.
And the fun keeps coming in year 2.
Yep. And then what happens is you start building upon it. So then the second year, you get the pharmacology course. So that's important because when you're seeing patients, There can be ototoxic meds or things that can impact the vestibular system, and having an understanding how those things impact can help you understand when someone comes in and you see their record, or if they have a certain disease process, you might be thinking, oh, this disease process goes along with this, and they're on these type of medications. Oh, this could impact my testing or impact the auditory system. So it gives you some insight in that. Then again, the neuroanatomy course, you got to know, as I said, anatomy and physiology. And then the next balance course, which looks at rotary chair, as well as some rehab techniques in there. Again, you can see the clinical all through there. Also, so you will have 6 different clinical experience, or 6 clinical experiences, not different ones because it's in the same facility, but as you go on, you get exposed more and more and more to more complex cases as you show that you're competent to do that. Then the second year spring, you do the hearing aids fitting course. Now, just because you have the course doesn't mean you're not fitting hearing aids. You're working with hearing aids from day one. Supervisors are with you. You may not truly understand who, what, where, when, and why, but this is where it gets filled in. And that's some of the things that happens. For example, like the masking course in the first year summer. The problem with that is students are doing some masking in there, but they're being walked through with the clinic supervisor. And so we do a lot of backfilling in that. So that's how that ends up working. So they have some background. And then the clinical and physiological methods is an electrophysiology course, looking at ECOGs and ABR and long latencies, testing on how to evaluate the auditory system with disease processes, and how to make interpretations and how to read all those. And then there's a neurophys course to build upon the neuroanatomy. So there's the anatomy and how does the neuroanatomy system kind of function. Then the summer gets into, again, continue to grow. By this point, you've had many of your basic tests. So now we're growing upon it. So now we have a tinnitus course. A lot of programs don't have a separate tinnitus course. It gets combined with an advanced diagnostic. You have a separate tinnitus course with it, where you learn how to do the evaluation. You learn the understanding concepts of tinnitus. You learn how to do interventions on it. Same thing with central auditory processing. You learn the underlying principles of it. What are the signs? What's going on? As well as talking about some interventions. And then there's the perspective in it, and interpersonal implications of oral habilitation. Rehabilitation is a counseling course. I often tell students that as audiologists, we are not counselors, but we do a lot of counseling. So that's important also on how that works. Okay, so knowing how to do this is very important. So this is where, again, the program kind of switches a little bit. You have all your foundations. So now what we're doing, we're giving courses where to grow and expand your knowledge, to build upon it. So the fall of the 3rd year, you have the oral habilitation and rehabilitation. So techniques you need to be thinking about if you're testing children and you're dealing or identify a child with a hearing loss, what it's going to impact that child's ability to develop their audition and speech and language and all the other variables that come into play. Then there's the hearing conservation. That's an important part, from industrial settings to recreational to just community things, what's all involved in there, how you have to manage it and how you do the measures and all the standards and regulations that go along with that. And then there's the medical audiology that talks about different disease processes, some of the interventions and how they all work. And again, you can see now there's the clinical experience off-campus one. Again, all 3 semesters, you rotate through different locations. Then in the spring, we get the RL rehab for adults because it's slightly different. Dealing with children, you're talking about development of hearing. You're talking about how it impacts their education, how it impacts families, and what the families impact. Now you're dealing with adults, and so it's slightly different. And what you do, how you do, why you do is different than what you're doing with children. Then we have a cochlear implants as well as implantable devices. So they talk about CIs as well as BAHAs. So you understand how to recognize the criteria for selection. And if you choose to go that route, how to evaluate and program the devices. And then an electronics course come which is important, teaching about to understand filters and amplifiers. Because if you think about what we're talking about with some of our devices deal with amplifiers and filters and frequency responses, as well as some of our testing, like the electrophys testing, deals with amplifiers and analog to digital converters. All those come into play. Then in the summer of the third year, we have an ethics and cultural diversity, important. You want to be ethical, and you got to understand how different cultures impact what we do, how we do, and why we do. And then the issues and perspectives is a business course to give you backgrounds on all the aspects of business plans and insurances and all the things that go into involved with those aspects if you think about going into private practice. And then the geriatric course is looking at how the body changes as you age and some of the disease processes and how the alteration in the body influences the tests that we do, and how even working with families and the fact that as people age, what tends to happen is as they get older, friends and relatives are no longer around, and how that impacts their psyche and moving on and moving into personal care facilities and how that impacts the person. So understanding all those different aspects. As you get older, and someone needs a device, geez, what are the special considerations? Well, as you get older, vision changes. It gets harder to see things. Dexterity changes, sensitivity changes. How do they work with the devices and what's going on? So those things are discussed in those aspects. And then the fourth year, as we said, is the full-time off-campus experience wherever you want. So basically, you are working, and our fourth year, many, of our students get some type of compensation. It depends on the site. There are some sites that do not offer compensation. And it seems to be a lot of times those that offer the best experience do not. And that's simply because they don't have to. People will go there whether they get some type of compensation or not. I always tell students, I've had students come to me and talk to me about things when they're looking at their fourth year and tell me they've been offered this outrageous amount of money to go to a site. And I always say, you need to think about, why are they paying you all of this money when you're still a student? And oftentimes there's a reason why. And gosh, this is probably going back about 15 or more years ago. I had a student like that. Oh, it's a great place, great place. And after about 2 to 3 months, the student was like, ooh, things are not good. And I said, that's what I told you. You got to be, there's a reason why. And that's why they tend to do things like that. So that's kind of our whole program, given a nice explanation, but a nice overview of what's happening.
Yeah, and then that gets into some of the application and the admission parts of the process. So the application is available online right now through SIDCAS. And here's some of the things that I know Dr. Zaleski and the admissions committee are looking for in qualified applicants. And again, you do have to submit these things in order to be considered. And you can see these things, the statement of goals, and you can see we included some suggestions of the types of things that you would want to include in there. The 3 letters of recommendation, and what I would recommend for your recommendation letters is making sure it's someone who can speak to your academic or your ability to perform well in this field. So that's going to be really crucial. Selecting the right people is a very important part of this process. A current resume. There's an application deadline which is set for February 1st this year. However, I know Dr. Zaleski and the admission committee, they are reviewing them on a rolling basis. So that means as applications are completed, it's not like we're waiting until after February 1st to make an admission decision and send that out. We're already admitting people right now for the incoming class. And the applications are only accepted for the fall semester. So all students, they only start in the fall. They only start in the fall. And Dr. Zaleski, is there anything else that you wanted to talk about what you're looking for in qualified applicants beyond what we have here on the list?
Sure. Ultimately, when we're looking at applicants, we've all heard people say this: cream rises to the top, and it's very easy to spot strong students. So that's one thing. But talking about your personal statements, a lot of students ask me that. What are you looking for? What I often tell the students is, this is a point where you sell yourself. So for example, if I would call you up and say, hey, I have one seat left in the program and it's between you and somebody else. Tell me why you are the best applicant for this. And if I would ask you that, a lot of students will say, okay, I ask them, what would you say? And they'd say, well, I'm telling you, these are the type of courses I've taken. I've worked hard to get that. I've overcome these things. I have leadership skills by being in this, or I've done this, or I've done that. Those are the things that are going to help us make a good decision, because we're trying to determine, are you a quality applicant? Writing a nice creative essay might be great and it might be a nice read, but how is that telling me why you are a quality applicant? Concerning the letters of recommendation, yes, the most important thing, which again, you have to remember, we are trying to determine, will you be successful in the program? So who can better speak to your success? One of your current faculty who's had you in class and knows your strengths and weaknesses, or your current employer, or a friend, priest, rabbi, minister. They may say great things about you, but do they really know the skills and ability needed to be successful in a rigorous, clinically applied field? And that's what we're looking for. The other thing is, as Tom had said, we do offer early admissions. If you are a strong applicant, we will review it, and you can obtain admissions early. So if you're interested in Bloomsburg through CIDCAS, if I'm correct, last time I heard students tell me each application you submit costs $100. If you're interested in audiology, I'm sorry, in Bloomsburg audiology program, you can submit one application. If you're a strong applicant, you can find out sooner than later if you're accepted into the program. Now, the key is, the sooner you submit your deposits, your seat is not reserved until you submit your deposit. So if you wait according to CIDCAS, we have to wait until April 15th, I believe, to put your deposit down. Problem with that is, if you wait until April 15th and our seats are filled, and you found out early, you may not, have that seat. So the earlier, if you get an early acceptance and you're interested, yes, I want to come here, it's better to get your application in earlier, sooner than later, that your deposit down, and that way you will have your seat reserved.
Yep. Agreed. And then the financial aid process, and I know, so our graduate students are eligible for loans in a similar manner to as a bachelor's level student. One of the things that we always really talk a lot about is the ROI on your degree. Like that's gonna be really, really important. And I know Dr. Zaleski, I've heard you talk about this before that, well, let me back up a little bit. Sometimes there's the assumption that if I go to a school that costs more money, it must be better quality because that's why I'm paying more. And that's true if you're buying jeans. That's true if you're buying sneakers or even maybe a car for traditional consumer items. The reality is higher education is not a traditional consumer item and shouldn't be evaluated like that. So sometimes you end up overpaying if that's the unit of measurement that you're going by. I can assure you, you will get tremendous value in your degree. Getting your doctorate degree in audiology from Bloomsburg. One of the things that we always talk about too is not only the tuition, not only the fees, but also the cost of living. The cost of living in Bloomsburg is going to be far more affordable than living in some other areas, especially urban areas. Those are all things that can really amplify the cost. Is some of these other ancillary things other than tuition and fees. We have a tremendous financial aid team. At the end of the presentation, you'll see my contact information. If you have any questions about financial aid, please feel free to reach out to me personally. I'm happy to help. And then the other primary form of financial aid other than loans would be graduate assistantships. And graduate assistantships, or sometimes they're referred to as GAs, they are part-time jobs on campus. Where in return in return for working on campus, you're provided with a paycheck and tuition reimbursement for typically between 6 and 9 credits, I want to say. And these are offered all across campus in a number of different departments. And some of those may be in Dr. Zaleski's department in audiology and speech language pathology. So this is a great way to get professional experience and valuable experience, while also offsetting the cost of your graduate degree. Again, increasing that ROI. Dr. Zaleski, do you have anything to add about the GAs that are offered through your department?
Yeah, if you're receive a graduate assistantship through our program, it depends on who you work with and what's going on. You can do everything to be involved in research, to help with course prep, to help things in clinic, to review documents, to help prepare uh, um, um, recruitment materials. I know sometimes my GAs help out with some of the things when students come to campus, or doing some online presentations. So it really depends on what's going on and what the need is on it. So it could be that you're setting up with labs. You might be doing some tutoring for classes. So there's a wide range of different things to do it. Matter of fact, last spring, I was teaching an undergraduate anatomy physiology for speech, language, and hearing. And one of the things I had my GAs do was tutor for it. And they repeatedly say they didn't realize how beneficial that was, because it helped them, again, going back to knowing anatomy and physiology, it refreshed things for them, which in the long run benefited them in their courses. So again, it can be very beneficial in what you do and how you do and why you do.
And again, just to reiterate that, do the math when you're evaluating costs. And earlier I started to say this, but Dr. Zaleski, you will frequently mention, and I think this is a great point, that just because, again, you pay more for your degree, not only doesn't necessarily mean you get better quality, but on top of that, employers aren't going to be evaluating you differently. It's like, oh, you paid that much money. Oh, well, then let's move you to the front of the line. Or, oh, you went to that school, then let's move you. We're just going to automatically hire you. That's not how this process works. We started this with the reputation, and talking about the reputation of the Bloomsburg program. That really matters tremendously. And again, the affordability matters. And what I would suggest to you is make sure you do the math as you're evaluating. This is a big decision, and you want to make sure you're making a fiscally responsible decision. So, and I'm confident that you'll find that type of that ROI that you're looking for. You'll find that here at Bloomsburg. That's
Correct. I'm sorry. Yeah. As Tom said, if you graduate from a big name school and you have this huge debt, they don't say, all right, oh, look at you graduated from this school. All right. So we're going to pay you, this much more. Oh, you graduated from Bloomsburg. Oh, no, if the starting salary is $60,000 a year, doesn't matter. You're going to get $60,000 a year. Key is what you got to remember is the program accredited? If it's accredited, they're all kind of offering all the same things in slightly different ways. So the content is being covered, but is it being covered in way? For example, like I said, in our program, a lot of courses don't have a separate tinnitus auditory processing course. Usually vestibular, because usually they're kind of in an advanced diagnostic course. And so you get a couple of weeks in those. You have full semesters of those, which puts students advanced. So those are the things you got to be thinking about.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, you're going to live here for at least 3 years, right? Because the fourth year, you're likely going to be offsite or at a clinic somewhere, at a hospital. But this is going to be your home away from home. And we want to make sure that you're aware of the community, and the town itself is beautiful. The campus itself is beautiful. Don't take my word for it. We're happy to host visits. Our campus was ranked as the third nicest in Pennsylvania in the past couple of years. Has been ranked the nicest. Like it's all over. Typically we're in that top five. And there are a lot of colleges in Pennsylvania. But your life as a grad student, as a residential grad student, will be rich or richer because of what the on-campus experience is like. As a grad student, again, you'll have the opportunities as an undergrad. You'll be able to eat on campus. You'll be able to access the student rec center, the library. There's a grad student lounge in the library, and the variety of services and support that we have here at Bloomsburg. You'll be able to leverage that completely as a student. We have a number of different ways for you to learn more about what it's like to live here. But again, some of this is just better to experience in person. So please don't hesitate to reach out to Dr. Zaleski or myself. We are happy to facilitate a visit so you can explore this a little more in a more detailed fashion. This is a big decision. We want to make sure you have all the information you need to make that decision. This is a question we hear often from prospective students. Is like, where am I going to live? Fair enough. Great questions. We have options on campus, off campus. And the nice part is, regardless of where you're living, if you're in an on-campus apartment or an off-campus apartment, you are living in a student community. Bloomsburg, the town itself, is a very traditional college town where you're either living on campus or you're living off campus or directly off campus. And if you live off campus, that's still a student community. So it's nice knowing that you're living in an area where a lot of people are kind of at a similar point in their lives. We do have a fairly, decent sized graduate student population as well. So you'll have the opportunity to engage with other graduate students. And again, the fact that it's a student community, I will think, really enhances your student experience as you go through the program. A lot of different ways for you to stay connected to. If you were to go to the Doctorate of Audiology website, you'll see we have a facility store. I know Dr. Zaleski talked a lot about some of the different facilities and labs that we have here on site. You can get a better view of those, from the comfort of your own home by going through the facility store. We have a student experience photo albums. You can kind of see what students are doing when they're not in class. Hey, what are studying or working on this project? So I think that's a nice way to kind of learn more about, what you're doing when you're not in the brick and mortar of class. The virtual campus tour, which I think is really important for anyone who may not be from the general area. This will give you kind of a glimpse in a more convenient way to learn more about the campus experience. An alumni panel discussion, and I think that was a great event. Again, it's available on demand on the website, where you heard from a wide variety of people in the careers that they went into. Like one person, Dr. Zaleski, I believe she worked in sales for a medical device company, which I thought was really interesting. That's not one of the things you think of. You think, oh, you're going to be an audiologist. There's so many things that you can do with this degree that you may not think of right away. The current student panel discussion, again, get a bird's eye view of what it's like to be a student. I would suggest following along on I think the SAA, Student Academy of Audiology Instagram profile. And again, we're always ready and willing to host visits. So if you've watched this and you've learned more, like, I really want to come to campus, wonderful. Please let us know. We're happy to help facilitate that. Before we go any further, though, I just want to see if we have any questions. I know we've been going for a little less than an hour. Let me just go through.
We do have a hand raised, and we have one in the regular chat and one in the Q&A, or two in a
Yes.
Q&A.
Yes, so we have a great question here from Jules Caesar. What kinds of academic background do you expect students to have? Typically, what is the average incoming class size?
Okay. The background varies, and it's kind of ties into the one that Samson wrote. What are you looking for eligibility criteria? Uh, we're looking for strong students, as I said, good students. The background, as I said, it comes from a wide range. The past several classes, 2, 3 years, we have been getting more and more people from health sciences and biology backgrounds into the program. So it doesn't necessarily have to be, as I say, communication sciences and disorders. When we look for eligibility, have they met the requirements of the sciences that we're looking for, the human sciences, physical sciences, social sciences, math requirements. If you got those, you're eligible. So the stronger student you are, the higher probability. Our average class size, I've recently looked at this not too long ago, looking back all the way to like 2013, or the class of 2013. So they probably would have come in then, 210. We have average roughly about 10 students. Our program can hold up to 15, but it seems like we average around 10 per year.
It's a great question. I know one of the things we hear often is for students whose bachelor's degree is not in communication sciences and disorders, what is that first semester like? If they've never taken any audiology or SLP courses, like what is that first step into the field like? What's the transition period like?
I mean, it's doable. It's very doable. Typically, it may take initially a little bit more effort to do some reading and studying to get up, but that's the way the program is set up, and that's where our governing body wants it. They wanted us to take things from undergraduate into the graduate program. So all the courses that you need in background is going to be offered. So, if you have, like I said, especially background in the sciences, anatomy and physiology, and what you got to remember in all this is we are clinically applied. So can you take the theory that's given to you and be able to apply theory? So not just regurgitate it when you repeat definitions. I often say to students, in my 27 years, well, more than 30 some years now, even more than that, heading into 40 years, with seeing patients, no one has ever come to me and said, define a conductive hearing loss. You had to take what the person's telling you, you have to look at their results, and you have to piece it all together to figure out what it is. So yes, you got to understand the theory and be able to figure out what's going on, to understand what's happening to your patient, make the appropriate recommendations, do the appropriate intervention. Without that, that's where people struggle, who can't do those things.
Mhm, mhm. So, Dr. Zaleski, you teach a lot of classes in the program.
I mean, it varies. This semester, I have 3 courses. I have the diagnostic one. I have the child AR courses, the hearing conservation. In the spring, I have 2. I have the electrophys course, and I teach a clinic course. In the summer, I teach the masking, the tinnitus, and auditory processing course. So roughly at this point was at 8 courses I'm teaching
Mhm.
throughout. But sometimes it does vary. Pretty much there's very few, I think, out of all the courses, there might be like 4 or 5 courses I haven't taught in here after being here for so long. So there's very
So
few
that's
that
going
I've
to
done.
make the second part of this question far more difficult. What's your favorite class to teach? Why?
It-
What's the
it,
one that's
um,
most near and dear to your heart?
A lot of times I enjoy them all. Really, sometimes it's more dependent on the cohorts. Some cohorts, are more engaged in it than others. Obviously, so that always makes it more fun when students are more engaging than students who just sit there and kind of watch the world go by and not ask questions, and how to do that. But besides that, again, it gets really tough. I mean, I guess, gosh, it's neat teaching the diagnostic one because students you're introducing them to a lot of the solid foundation that we're going onto, and getting students also to, like, with the masking course is always fun because they come in and you start talking to them. As a matter of fact, I was doing my advising with the students, and one of the third years said to me, students, when I teach the masking course, like, oh, why do we didn't do this, need to do this, and students say, I just have to tell you that the site that I'm at complimented me on how well my masking skills are. And I said, ah,
Oh,
really? So that's good to hear, but you guys complained about it. And that's what it's all about.
yeah.
Tinnitus course is always fun, the auditory processing course. So uh, like I said, I like them all.
Yeah, no, that's a great answer. We have a wonderful question from Hunter here. What is the average acceptance rate?
It, gosh, I truly don't track that.
Yeah,
So it's difficult to say the exact acceptance rate. Sometimes it depends on the pool. The stronger, the applicant pool will have a higher acceptance rate. If it's not as strong, it may not. So it depends. Along that, there's another question that goes along with it. What is the average GPA?
yeah,
If thinking back, it's probably in the 3.5 range, where it tends to be. This past year, for fall, it was a 3.56. I think the year before, it was like a 3.57, 3.58. I think maybe the year before it was like 3.53. So we tend to be in the 3.5 range, for the mean GPA.
and Dr. Zaleski, we've talked about this before, where sometimes you'll say, you know what, man, if they had a 3.3, but they were in neuroscience, was their bachelor,
Correct.
really hardcore health science classes, great preparation.
Mhm.
Sometimes, again, that GPA, it's a kind of a sliding scale, sometimes depending on the preparation that.
Yes, yeah, yeah, that does come into play. If you look at anybody in the hard sciences, pre-meds, the biology, chemistry, biological sciences. Really, when you look at those, if people have a 3.0, they're rock stars
Yeah.
in there. So if you're coming from the hard sciences, and you have, like I said, like Tom said, 3.3, you're probably going to be fine. I can give you a personal experience. We had a student now probably about 10 years ago, and it was uh, biomedical sciences, I think it was. And the reason why I know this is the student who was applying to our program knew someone who knew me. So the person reached out to me, and the student was all concerned because she had macro biology 2, I think it was, and she got a B+, and she was concerned if that would hurt her chances of getting in. And I'm like, if she got a B+ in macrobiology 2, she should be fine. And the student did really, really well. So again, it's that science base, and that's what a lot of times I look at. I look at how the students did in their science courses because I know we're more science based. If you have strong science base, typically you'll do fine in our program.
Excellent, excellent. I think that gets us through most of our questions. For anyone who is, again, watching live or watching the recording, thank you so much for spending time with us to learn more about our program. We hope to hear from everyone in the future. We hope this has piqued your interest and you want to learn more. We'd love to chat with you. So please don't hesitate to reach out to Dr. Zaleski or myself. We are always happy to help, but I hope everyone has a wonderful night. Thank you.